Start the stream. Particularly proud of the new title for this arc. All right, we'll let the stream get up and rolling.
Did you want to show off our microphone setup? Or do you want me to?
I guess so.
Okay. So this is what Joe did over the weekend.
Ooh,
Went and
fancy.
bought a mic stand.
Yeah, because it's got that like dual channel thing that's
Mhm.
like made for interviews. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Brad's getting fancy. I think I need one of those like breath guard things.
Yeah.
Oh, the
I
pop
know
filter.
I'm very huffy because I have a 90% deviated septum. So again, listening to it on high speed, whenever there's silence, I just feel like I don't know. It's kind of like being a Final Fantasy character with haste. All of my like idle animations and sounds are sped up. So I'm just over here like it's like nobody wants that. So anyway, last time on A Crown of Cold Iron, our party is now deep into Fairy in pursuit of Cyrus's kidnapped mentor Mort, as well as humans that have been trafficked into Fairy quite illegally. You all have followed both trails to the territory of Lord Lambton, Oryx's Fey patron. You've been trailing his cousins, Argent and Stultus, who seem to be the direct henchmen involved in all of this. You have reached the city of Weir, part of Lambton's capital, which runs alongside the sort of Fey magic-infused river that marks Lambton's territory. However, things have gotten a little odd. You have discovered some of the missing humans, but, well, the question of whether they were trafficked or not is becoming a little more strange, as is the question of whether they are human or not. You have just found one of the missing children, a child who was in the documents that you recovered from Argent and Stultus's temporary lair. And in those documents, this child was listed as very, very ill, even to the point of having limited mobility. But you have discovered them here, seemingly possessed of full mobility, but also seemingly partially transformed into some kind of Fey humanoid creature. So we left off with this child speaking to Cyrus on this bridge, and Stultus walking up in the distance.
And for the record, just to make it clear, since Stultus is walking up, I have been in human form this whole time.
Yep. I'm reducing a few of our lights just to get it a little more under control.
Yeah, I did notice
So
it
I was
getting
like,
darker.
that is real bright.
Yep. I've learned my lesson. I have to have one of your tokens on the map when I set the lights, or they look substantially less bright,
Okay.
which might cause me to overcompensate.
I mean, that seemed fitting to me.
Yeah, I want the vibe. I just don't want it to be quite as
Carnival.
yeah, quite as explosive.
Yeah.
Should be more subtle, less less neon rave.
Right.
But anyway, so this child is staring up at you, Cyrus. Humanoid upper torso, sort of bare, scrawny, human-looking frame. A child of probably less than 10. But the lower legs look like a sort of peacock satyr, with feathers sort of starting sort of around the navel and just fully engulfing legs that now bend the wrong way, and end in avian feet. Across the edges of the child's face, this sort of blonde hair meshes with these colorful feathers that sort of just tiny ones that sort of frame the face, and their human pupils and irises have been replaced with just a sort of opaque luminescence. And Stultus, in full sort of fey silver dragonborn form, is walking across the bridge. Cyrus, your locate object is pinging wildly, and you see the crystalline rapier that is Stultus's weapon hanging at his waist. And he says, I didn't think you all were ever going to get here.
You know, the last people that said that ended up dead in winter.
Well, that's a very threatening way to start a conversation.
Oh yeah.
Just a true fact.
The child is looking up at you with like the eyes have gotten real big, backing away just a little bit.
Let's just say, last time we met, I'm not charitably disposed to you.
The child is looking very concerned, and Stultus gives sort of a warm smile and says, "Oh, Murph, it's okay. Don't worry. Come here." And the child sort of like almost skips, but the steps are massive. They're more like leaps, but it looks effortless, just like and crosses the space over to Stultus. Stultus, for his part, kind of like ruffles the kid's hair and laughs and says, "Well, all right. You're here now. Although, oh, Lady Marta." And he gives a sort of half bow, and she snorts at him. He says, "You seem to have traded my cousin for 2 more humans."
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Deception check.
So say, Arik had some other business to attend to. Totally.
18.
All right, let's see how he does.
I've got a +7.
Oh, what was their encounter called? Did they not have one? Nope. Okay, it just didn't load everything. I was like, what? Uh he sort of just raises an eyebrow like, hmm. The child is sort of shuffling a little. Auric and Cyrus, both of you give me Arcana checks, and Cyrus, give it to me with advantage.
Blackjack.
Nat 20 for a 26.
That is very appropriate. Cyrus, you immediately recognize something about this kid. So it's obviously something is changed about this child. And anyone can notice that. You feel oh uh again, this is one of those things that's like hard to put into words. There is a familiar trace to this magic
Mm.
on this child. And in fact, it is incredibly familiar. You know with certainty that however this child became like this, it looks almost exactly the same way that your own sort of arcane substance is structured. And I don't just mean like in a general way, I mean almost exactly the same. Like someone took different materials and built the same blueprint.
Well then.
But not but not a Mort. Can I tell? Like, it's not like it's not in the same way that like Alex and I are connected by Mort, but someone did something. Someone else did the same thing Mort did.
Yes.
Okay.
Using fairy magic, obviously, but now you don't necessarily know how common that is. Just because that's, you've got 2 points of reference for this in the whole world. But it is close enough that when you put together context clues, this can't be unrelated.
I can't remember. Did before Stultus showed up, did the child say? I feel like I asked him if his dad was here.
Correct. So where we ended, you had 2 disastrous luck rolls in a row, and had essentially been outed as not even just a human, which would have been a whole thing, but specifically as a Tuathan something by a particularly perceptive seer along the waterfront. You all escaped with Lexi causing a food fight distraction with some very impressionable little goblins.
Just got to know your clientele.
You had a message note, or not message, but like an alarm notification go off on your phone, which is from a human movie. We'll call it Bonnie Anaconda's Soaring Carnival. And the child recognized it and specifically said that their dad loves that movie. But when you asked, yes, their dad is not with them, and they said their dad was not allowed to come.
Did we get the chance to ask if their dad knows they're here? Like,
You did not get a chance to, because that was when Stultus started walking up.
okay.
Just to help jog my memory, were there just missing children, or were there also missing adults?
There was a mix.
Okay.
And the only thing you saw that was in common amongst all of them was that they all had some kind of health issue, a fairly severe one. Because earlier you all had followed a sort of strange strand that put Argent and Stultus in their human forms, visiting local hospitals and essentially getting chased away for being super weird to very sick patients.
Yep. And one of my friends' acquaintances who I talked with at the fight club was missing an arm and had been asked what he would do to get his arm back.
So I think Cyrus will just call out, "Hey Murph, did Stultus tell your dad where you were going?"
The kid looks thoughtful for a second and then says, "I think so. I don't know."
Well, that's kind of what I figured.
I'm just gonna give Stultus a look, as if to say, "Would you care to fill in the blanks?"
Stultus laughs and sort of tilts his head back and says, "Of course. We want everyone to know this child had so many of those human issues that seems to crop up from time to time, and look how much better his life is now."
You are not wrong. It's fascinating, though. This is a unprecedented magical advances. How did you make this happen?
Oh, it wasn't me. This is Lambton's visionary plan. The courts are too conservative. They want everything to stay exactly as it is, but look how much improved this child's life is.
Cyrus
Absolutely.
will interject, "Health and life don't mean the same thing in our world, Stultus. You may have improved the child's health, does not mean you have improved the child's life."
Interesting that you would phrase it that way. What of the others? What of the ones who would be dead?
Will Murph be going home to his dad?
Of course.
When?
As soon as the magic has finished settling.
And he'll be welcome at home?
I can't speak to human prejudices.
Perhaps a question you should have raised before.
Murph was entirely excited about it.
Murph is also a child.
Murph is not above the age of consent.
I mean, Lexi and Cyrus might not know this, but Auric, you would know this. Like, in the legal traditions of fairy, this is meaningless. Like,
Yeah, it's true. We know that.
and it sort of hits him coming and going, because for the most part, like, a lot of beings in fairy don't change at all over the course of their whole life. And then also, so many of them are immortal that children are kind of a weird category here. But Stultus does not seem at all bothered by this argument, and Murph is just nodding enthusiastically,
as one would expect.
Yep.
He's sort of bouncing up and down just a little bit on his sort of peacock legs.
I have to ask, because like I said, this is, from the human perspective, this is simply an unprecedented magical advancement. What kind of magic? I mean, you obviously said it was not yours. What kind of magic even could do this?
Well, they've been blessed by Lord Lambton.
Not really an answer, dude.
And what was the magical cost? I mean, everything takes energy. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere, right?
Lord Lambton, in his endless beneficence, wanted to improve the lives of these poor, destitute humans who had no other options, and so he gave of the magic that is his territory.
Oh, his territory. Okay. I thought you were going to say he gave his own power, which would have been very, very benevolent of him.
I mean, it's one and the same. It's the territory that he draws from, and it's his to give. I hate to keep doing this because I feel like it's mean to Lexi, but I don't think you have heard this word before, or you've heard it, but you don't know this context.
Okay.
Cyrus and Auric both give me a history check.
All right. Gonna ride the high rolls while I still can.
Yes, seriously. Oh,
Not me this time.
Auric, you have heard someone. There was something weird about the way that he said blessing and blessed. And you have heard someone, something or somewhere or someone speak that way or convey something in that way in the last couple of months.
a blessing from the Lord.
A blessing from the demon lords, right?
Well, that's you.
That's where my mind went.
Yep.
You have definitely heard this word a couple of times. Yeah, you definitely have, because it's in my notes 30 times. Yeah, I'll let you go back and hunt for that later if you would like, but you've heard this actually in one of the strange visions that you have had. Your other patron used this word. Argent is just smiling hugely as you all are sort of trying to think this through. Like, he could not be more proud of himself. You are all very much struck with the image of like a cat who has brought back like a dead bird and dropped it in your bed.
Don't get any ideas.
This is all win to him. He legitimately doesn't see why you all don't seem thrilled about this.
I do wonder. Oh, I don't think I got your name.
I'm Sir Stultus, in service to Lord Lambton. You also notice, just because this would be a weird change of protocol, Stultus is, there is like an evangelistic quality to the way Stultus talks about Lambton. Most people, even their followers, are hesitant to name such powerful beings. But Auric, you would just know, like Lambton likes having his name said a lot. He does not like, he doesn't get upset about that. And Stultus rattles off a bunch of titles for Lambton. the well worm, the river lord, the lord of mists and color. And after he sort of finishes this long introduction, he gives another sort of deeper, more theatrical bow. When he bows, like there's like a swoosh of movement, and like phantasmal butterflies sort of like flicker off behind him as he bows. It would be kind of impressive if everything else about it wasn't wrong.
Well, Sir Stultus, if I may ask you a philosophical question.
Fairies do philosophy.
What price would you be willing to pay for such a phenomenal blessing?
Oh, I have been blessed.
Continue.
He sort of gestures again, and you see the butterflies. There's almost like a curtain of frost, almost like he's wearing like a cloak that like goes under his arms and attaches to his back, and he brings his arms out, and there's like frost falling, like sort of glitter almost through the air, and some of it swirls together and forms colorful little butterflies again, and they sort of flicker and fade off. And he says, well, of course, I have sworn my blade to Lord Lambton's service. And he has blessed me greatly. Although, of course, there's no such expectation for these humans. That was extended just out of an act of goodwill to our new neighbors, or old neighbors, I suppose.
Yes, quite.
Old new friends. In some ways.
Old friends refound?
Old friends refound?
An act of goodwill that no doubt Lord Lambton saw fit to communicate with the assembly and the embassy and Lady Bryn to assure there was no misunderstanding of his beneficence.
I must admit that there is a tendency of my Fey brethren to sometimes be hindered by rules and bureaucratic procedure. Was it better to let these humans suffer and die?
Are we positive that they were going to die?
I'll say this: you all would know this. There were way sicker people on this list.
Okay.
Like the ones who are missing, there were people who like would probably already be dead.
Okay.
Because this has been happening for a little while.
Okay.
And so some of those folks were in like definitely in like the you have a month to live category.
Okay.
Well, Stultus does not appear to be one for philosophy, so.
Which 100% tracks with everything you've ever known about.
Yes.
That's why I asked when you said a philosophical question.
I'm pretending I don't know him.
Does he strike you? Even if you don't know him, does he strike you as a philosophical type? I mean, I don't know him. He doesn't strike me as a philosophical type.
Mr. Stultus, can I go buy some of the candy? And he laughs, says, "Sure." And he counts out a few silver coins and drops them into the child's hand. It's way too much money. Like the candy is probably like a couple of pennies, a couple of coppers a piece. And sure enough, over the next like 2 minutes, in the background, Murph is like getting like 20 of these like candied skewer things.
It's like a Halloween bucket full of candy.
Yeah.
Not just like,
I'm just watching him run back and forth.
real like a kid on a school trip, instantly spending all his money at the gas station energy.
Yes.
Yep.
Cyrus, well, so you said we finally arrived. Have we been expected?
Well, of course. We wanted to share this wonderful thing. My cousin was supposed to be here, but I suppose you all lost him somewhere along the way. He does tend to wander off.
Well, perhaps in the future you could be a little more clear and forthright with your invitations.
I deeply apologize. I am a little bit unfamiliar with the human protocols.
As I recall, blades and breath are not inviting.
To be fair, we didn't actually we weren't actually aware of you all at that time. We were trying to secure Lady Main's assistance in stabilizing a portal when we were interrupted by some kind of gang of rapscallion youths.
Those rapscallion youths.
And you remember they were just trying to talk to Maine when Charles sort of like a lot of things escalated all at once in that situation.
Right.
Yes.
Fair.
So if you were expecting us, then I presume that there is something more that you intended to tell or show to us.
Would you like to meet the rest of them?
Lead on, Macduff.
Absolutely. And he points, and you can actually see sort of rising up on one of these islands is like a beautiful house. It's a mini mansion. And he sort of gestures for you all to follow and starts to walk off, and he gets a few steps and he realizes, he goes, "Oh, Murph, don't get lost." And Murph comes skipping and jumping, and all of you all give me a perception check.
Perception. There's the low roll.
Womp womp.
Meh.
Cyrus, you catch this. It's not like a huge thing, but as Murph is sort of running and jumping, Murph just chomps into these candies, stick and all, and just like chews through the wood with no sign of like displeasure or discomfort, and just happily chews it all the way down. Not quite all the way down the stick, but like wherever the sugariness has dribbled down the stick, just and then just sort of like tosses the last like inch of skewer into the water.
What's the policy on littering and fairy?
It doesn't even hit the water. There's like a burst of multicolored mist, and it just sort of dissolves before it hits. So Murph is sort of bouncing along next to Stultus, has sort of like a drizzle of like sweet, sticky, like candy coating running into the feathers under his mouth. Would you all like to follow?
Yeah,
I guess so.
guess that's what we're doing.
I'll have you all give me an insight check on something.
Oh, hell.
That's better than nothing.
I rolled in 2, so I have a 5.
14 is average for me.
Let's be real. This probably just straight up checks out.
19.
Both Oric and Cyrus, you both notice Vela and Marta both seem very unhappy with this. Vela is kind of like, Auric, you have rarely seen Vela really take anything too seriously. Like, she gets very passionate about things, but she's not one to be reserved or careful. Like, that's just not her style. There is a coldness, not towards you, obviously, but just towards the situation. And you see her brain working like a mile a second, just Marta is not even trying to conceal her displeasure. She seems to be getting heavier. There is like a growing dent in the stones under, like, around you all.
She's stomping.
She's not even moving. It's like her actual body weight is increasing astronomically. Like, again, still looks like sort of delicate elven princess, but the print she is leaving in the ground now looks more comparable to like a giant. She's muttering like, I am going to rip out his scaly throat. I am going to flay him and turn him into a belt.
I look forward to watching that.
Yes.
That sounds really cool. Is there like special technique for like leather making in fairy?
She is
like Lexi's mind is running at like 1,000,000 miles an hour right now because she's just so out of her
depth.
So
Marta is just in a fury. She would gladly have just attacked him on this bridge, but was sort of letting you all run this conversation.
I think that I am going to sidle up to Vela. You don't need me to tell you that all powerful magic has a cost. We've already seen some of the cost of this blessing. I'm curious what other costs there are.
Yeah.
Vela sort of whispers as you all go back. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's not even about the magic. I have no idea what would happen if people heard this was possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the next great medical breakthrough or if it's the next great war. This is... I light things on fire. This is the kind of thing my uncle is really good at. And we are way out of our depth here.
Yep.
So I think Auric is the last person that's had Cyrus's token.
I think so.
So off of that Arcana check, Cyrus is gonna send Auric a telepathic message that the kid looks to have been formed the same way Alex and Cyrus were. And that means somebody got diminished to use that magic, even if it wasn't Lambton.
Like I said, I think we've already saw who got diminished.
Yeah.
Is that what we think the
hatchlings.
dragon eggs?
That's what I think happened with the dragon eggs.
Yeah.
Story of how Lexi became a mother to a dragonborn.
And Auric is trying to find the most polite way to ask, how much of you is still you?
To Cyrus? Okay.
That's a fun question for Cyrus to sit with for a minute.
Be right back.
Somebody's begging, so Oh, it's the most wonderful time of the evening.
It's treat o'clock.
It's treat o'clock. I have been begging all day for these treats.
I'm here. I'm just out of sight.
Yeah.
So, how much of Cyrus is still Cyrus?
I mean, as far as Cyrus is concerned, it's all, as far as he knows, it's all still him. But I think for him, it was so, like, he doesn't know any different, right? So, like, it happened when he was so young. He wouldn't know. It still feels the same to him. He still feels the same, but he wouldn't know. He wouldn't be able to articulate kind of what was different before Mort acted.
So, Argent leads you through a beautiful area of Midweir. You all have been in kind of the market area has a weirdly sort of classless atmosphere to it in every sense of the word. um, the wealthy and the powerful and the poor and the goblins and everybody mingles in the market. You sort of move out of the market. You're now in a space that is a little bit more. There aren't literal gates, but your human point of comparison is gated community. Like this is like a beautiful riverfront street where the traffic is much lower. You see a greater sort of preponderance of like elegant sort of sylvan high fashion happening. You even see there's substantially less dragonborn here. The people along this street skew more vaguely elven, but there's sort of other features mixed in. And Stultus gestures, and literally this there's like a small wall around the house. There's a beautiful garden. Things are glimmering and otherworldly. There are it's sort of a nicer stone path up to the door, and each step, the stone you step on, illuminates for a moment. And he gestures, and the door just swings open on its own, and Murph giggles and jumps through in one leap.
Fancy. I suppose we shall follow the bird child.
I suppose so.
You enter this beautiful house. Obviously, the furnishing is not modern, but it is very sort of almost sort of like a French sun court kind of vibe, like a little bit ostentatious, almost like it has been overpacked with luxury. There's all kinds of little ornamental magics happening all over. And you can see that there is sort of down the hallway slightly, there's like a sort of like a living chamber. And you see a couple of other creatures sitting around the room. You recognize the sort of curled up at the end of one of the couches with a blanket pulled over them is the dark-haired kid that walked through the portal with them. there's also what looks like a tree, almost like a tree has been carved in the shape of a humanoid.
Groot.
And it's very sort of more statuesque than Groot. Like literally like a humanoid carved out of wood, where there's still touches of like branches and buds and blossoms. And incongruously, there's little sort of like half moon spectacles sitting at the end of this wooden nose, as this figure leans back. The sort of rooted feet are sitting in a like a wide, shallow basin, and the figure sort of is holding a book and goes to like lick a finger to turn a page, and there's like a dry sandpaper sound, and they kind of look at it for a second and then laugh and then flick the page. But you see several vaguely humanoid, but obviously Fey touched individuals sort of lounging around this room.
Quite a few.
Russell's got an opinion.
Russell has opinions. Did Stultus come in with us?
Yeah, Stultus came in. Everyone they almost give him the Norm treatment. Everyone seems genuinely excited to see him. Not in like an exaggerated way. It's just sort of like, oh, hey. Like they see him every day. Or often at least. The woodman sets the book down on a table, puts the little half moon glasses on top, and turns around with a bit of a creak and goes, "Oh, are they here for the blessing too?"
Oh, no need, I think. I appreciate the thought, though.
Well, it's if you need it, it's awful nice. I'm still getting used to lunch though. And you see him kind of like splash his feet a little bit in the basin. And you can see that there's like it looks to at least to Lexi and Cyrus exactly like the little stuff you get to put in the water when you buy flowers.
Oh yeah, the crystal stuff.
Yeah, it looks like that. But he kind of smiles and says, I don't know if I'll ever get used to tasting with my feet, but sure beats dying.
There is that.
Does he also look? Does this also look like a child or older?
No, this is definitely like an older man.
Oh, okay.
And again, with context, you don't even need to check. This is Balfour Dahlem, who also this is one of the folks who would be dead. Terminal diagnosis, chronic illness.
So I will turn to Stultus and say, "This is quite a gathering you have here. Does your Lord Lambton really have enough power for all this and more?"
Oh, I mean, this is a drop in the bucket compared to Lambton's power. It's not a question of it was not a lack that was holding this back from happening. It was, oh, I love the phrase, what's the common for it? What do you all call it? The blue ribbons?
Red tape.
That's it. The red tape.
Very different from blue ribbons, but I understand you wouldn't know that.
I'm practicing my common with a human child. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're learning all the dances then.
Murph immediately starts flossing.
I attempt to as well and fail miserably.
Performance check.
I'm gonna laugh if I actually don't fail.
I'm gonna laugh really hard.
And I've got a +4, so a 9. Not miserably, but
You look like you've seen it before, but you're not quite sure on like the how you get it to look that like that. Like
Yeah.
sometimes your arms are coming down the wrong way and you're not turning right. And
Yeah.
the Murph laughs at you, but smiles widely. Oh man, I wonder what new dances they'll have added to my game by the time I come back.
when he says that, I try to catch a quick glimpse at Stultus to see if he reacts in any way.
Give me an insight check.
On an 11, he seems perfectly.
I mean, he's just smiling.
Yeah.
Seems to be very amused by the antics of the child.
So where does this all end? You come into the human realm, you invite a few sick people to come receive a blessing, and that's it. It sounded like you spoke of this being the future of the courts.
Oh well, I wouldn't dare speak to that level. And of course, I only know a part of Lord Lambton's brilliant mind, but this could be the future of all those who are sick or ill or dying. If your neighbor is dying and you have the power to prevent it, why wouldn't you?
And Lord Lambton will share the process of this gift with the other courts so that all of your neighbors may enjoy the richness of giving.
Well, that would be the hope. Obviously, there are a lot of humans who are in need of help, and while we could perhaps help many of them out of Lambton's own territory, we would certainly hope that our peers would take up some of this neighborly duty if they could see past the rules and regulations that certain individuals have unnecessarily put in place.
So does your Lord Lambton ever come to check on these that he has blessed?
Not not directly to the house. It is rare for Lord Lambton to leave sort of the center of his power, but the children especially love to come visit as the palace passes through Weir.
How does Marta react to Stoltis saying, "Oh yeah, all the Fae can do this"?
Actually, that's a good point. I'm going to add. Hold up, let me pull up a roller for her. She's going to make. Gotta decide what what this check is. A not going Tarrasque on this building check.
Charisma saving throw?
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed. Waiting for her to get added. There we go. See how she does. She has a pretty good charisma saving throw. She gets a 13. She is not immediately ready to smash this place, but she is visibly unhappy. Murph looks at you all and goes, is the no, he would definitely say it this way. He would say, is the horny lady okay? And the old sort of wooden man goes, Murph, we might want to say that a little different. Ma'am, are you okay? And Marta is just like grumbling under her breath, and you can see once again, you hear the really nice sort of floor underneath you all creaking. Now she doesn't seem to dispute that anyone can do this. And I'll say this, Auric, you would know at least what Stultus has is common. That's something that happens all over. Like, there is a part of the reason for sort of the hierarchical scheme of sort of fairy organization is that there is quite literally trickle down power. You know, like knights and servants of Archfey get powers. Some of them have physical transformations. The math adds up here for whatever that means.
I think once we're in this room, Cyrus is going to take a beat and check the Mort tether and see if it feels different, closer.
The Mort tether is still sort of pinging upriver, fairly far. Okay. Mort does not seem to be in or around these premises. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the children enjoy waving at your Lord Lambton when his palace floats by, did you say?
Oh, no, I know that the two of you, I know that some folks have not always perhaps gotten along. Have perhaps not gotten along with Lord Lambton as well as I have, but no, he fully brings it in, and the palace docks into the the sort of royal grounds here in Midweir, and there's always a small feast when the children come. The Lord likes to send us to hire some of their favorite street vendors to come and prepare delicacies just for them. We've not quite mastered this pizzazz.
Yes, pizzazz is a very difficult one.
The children seem to be particularly enamored of it, and I think perhaps it's something about the cheese here, but that's and Balfour says it's pizza. Oh yes, that's right. Boy, if it's pizza, but sometimes the children call it a za. Yeah, I don't know why they do that.
Kids
Huh.
these days.
Humans. All right.
Humans.
But yeah, it's a yes, it's a grand celebration. Sometimes there are arcane displays. It's only been a handful of times. We've only been doing this for a few months now. Lord Lambton was petitioning anyone who would listen for cooperation, for assistance. He exhausted all of the proper channels before he decided to take on this project himself.
So may I ask, does your Lord Lambton's, I almost called it a pleasure barge, that's rather rude of me. Does it have any sort of schedule? Does he come with any frequency? Because I'm fascinated by this magic that he's come up with, and I would love to learn more from him if I can.
Last I had heard, he was around the North Weir, upriver from here. He comes and goes as the needs of his court demand. But you've seen the palace before.
I'm afraid I haven't been here that long.
I was gonna say, like Lacey's like, I haven't.
Oh, I must be thinking of someone else. The kid who sort of curled up under a blanket on the couch shifts a little bit, and you realize it's not a blanket. It's two massive wings folded around him. And as he kind of like rolls a little in his sleep, you can see the wings look dark, but when he shifts just a little bit, the light hits it just right, and there's almost like a wave of opalescent sheen that runs through these feathers. Stultus goes over and kind of brushes some of the wild dark hair out of his face, and the kid sort of quiets. And he says, yes, Olin here only received his blessing. It's not even been a day yet. It always takes a while for it to finish.
So the wings are not his, or are they?
You can tell just from looking that they're part of him.
Part of him. Okay.
Say Olin?
Olin.
Okay. Sorry, so like I stole this for a second. You don't have an Alan here, do you?
Give me an insight check.
Dirty 20.
He genuinely has no idea who you're talking about.
Okay.
Worth
Worth
a
a
shot.
Yep.
There was a moment where I wasn't sure who you were talking about, and I had to like really think about it. Like, oh, okay, Alan.
Oh yeah, Alan.
It sounded so similar for a second there. I was like, Olin, Alan, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. And you recognize this kid because again, you found all of their notes.
Mhm.
Right.
All this was left in the Weir the Weir words warehouse, which is a lot of very similar syllables.
Yes.
um,
Did the notes say anything about what was wrong with him?
he also had some kind of like childhood chronic illness that meant there was a very good chance he was going to die soon.
I was just trying to think if there was like a connection between what was wrong with him and the fact that he got wings.
Give me an Arcana check.
All right. How's a 21 do?
There is a strange pattern here. Now, obviously, Balfour has a different sort of transformation. It is a little weird that there are two different, and it's not just these two. You see, like, there are more like peacock and feather and wings and sort of avian traits than it seems like a random selection would come up with.
Hmm. I'm drawing a blank now.
Yep.
Um, I'll let your check there ride. The color scheme is very Lambton.
Mhm.
The feathers, especially on Murph, and the way that they are sort of framed around the face, and you actually saw some kind of grow in as you watched. Looks an awful lot like you've seen Cyrus change at least once.
Yes.
Looks very similar. And you'd have almost thought that Olin's wings, they looked very dark before the light hit them just the right way.
Mhm.
Almost like a very different kind of avian creature.
Right.
Cyrus also got a part of the like jumble of images from Mort's past coming out of the tether included of something opalescent blood from a long ago battle.
Mm. So part of why I said I'm drawing a blank is because I was thinking I'm not sure where to go from here.
Mm.
All right, Stultus. You showed us the house. We met some people. Anything else?
Well, if you'd like, I assume you all will be going back eventually, correct?
One would hope.
That's the plan.
Well, it
Yeah, I don't
seems-
live here.
It seems that you all are somewhat concerned with the well-being of these individuals, as I appreciate. Several of them, the blessing is concluded. They're ready to go home. If you all would like to escort them back.
Hmm. That might be helpful to them.
It may indeed.
They've been through a lot of changes recently. It may be useful to have somebody assisting them with that travel and readjustment.
And to assure that they at least return via proper channels.
As proper as ours were.
Yeah.
Can only say so much about that.
I was more thinking I don't want them walking into an angry mob.
Yeah, well, yes. Okay.
That could certainly be arranged when we are once we are ready to take our leave. Would we arrange that with you?
Certainly. They're the ones who are ready to leave would be I'm sure would welcome escorts back and are ready to get back to what was the word again, Balfour? Pizza. Yes, pizza and fork knife.
Fortnite?
Fortnite?
I will take your word for it.
Is that where the dances come from?
To be honest, it sounds quite violent, but also dancing, which I suppose is not that unusual to some corners of Fairy, but not my preference, certainly. But I know that Olin and Murph will both be quite ready to get back to it, although they still both need a little while.
Fair.
I'm sure we can figure something out. We'll find you here when we're ready to go. We're not leaving right this minute.
Still so many sights to see.
Well, simply stop back by on your way.
Well, in that case, Sir Stultus, it has been a unique experience. And I offer my hand.
He takes your hand to your sort of human-ish hand. It feels quite cold and scaly. And he sort of smirks and gives you sort of a respectful nod, and seems content to let you all go.
All right.
If I had had something that I, something devious to do right as I shook his hand, it would have been great, but I have nothing.
So say like the buzzer or some other like prank.
Well, I was thinking like, a magical listening device
That,
to
yeah,
stick in his palm.
right.
I have no such thing.
Fortunately, I have one, but it's only it's one-time use. You got to decide when to pull it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Then what would you all like to do now?
I think our next step is going to be trying to get into Lambton's palace, yeah?
Probably, yeah.
So both what Stultus told you, not tells you, told you, and also sort of your Mort sense, both point towards upriver, towards the North Weir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wasn't Marta was going to charter the boat, right?
Yes, if you all are sort of done with this place, you all can kind of step away and make your next set of plans.
Sounds good.
All right.
After all, Stultus is just, at the end of the day, a stooge.
You all get like 3 blocks away, and Marta stomps the ground so hard that a whole building and just leaves a massive impact crater and and there's green mist off her breath. That arrogant, awful, manipulative oil slick of a snake. And she stomps again.
I mean, yes, but maybe don't destroy the town.
You see almost immediately, this is like the really nice part of town. Little almost sort of like rainbow colored goblins coalesce out of the mist coming up off the river and run over and start like pull out little tools and start like repairing everything. She just kicks one in frustration and it back into mist and then back together.
Cyrus will turn to Marta and say, so I didn't want to ask in front of the stooge, but seriously, what does Lambton gain from this? Is there power or prestige in increasing the size of one's court?
Marta is going to make an intelligence check. Marta is very strong. Marta is not
a court politician.
Yes.
Given that I'm a local, may I also make an intelligence check?
Yes. She only got an 11. We'll see what Oric comes up with, and then we'll see what you all put your heads together.
Oh, come on. It was on the 13.
All right. So both of you are able to put together. There could be something here about being able to create more Fae long term, but it's almost a net zero because it seems like he's draining his territory to do it. With those roles, it's hard to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cyrus, you said that Murph seemed very similar to you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to say this. Do you believe the person who did this to you, if they could have, would have exerted control over you?
No. But it's only about a month ago that I found out he was thousands of years old.
Right.
So,
because my thought is it's possible that Lamb Chop could be sort of creating pliable minions.
Right.
But I'm not familiar enough with the magic to know if it would work in that way. If there could be implanted suggestions.
or just a feeling of owing a debt.
Or just a feeling of owing a debt.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing for free here. And the fact that it very much sounds like it's for free
Is suspicious.
means that the cost is something that he does not want advertised.
Yeah. And if we're not keeping them here, then it's not a direct boon to Fairy necessarily. So,
Mm-hmm.
A foothold in the human realm.
Perhaps.
I'm trying not to look as Colby is giving us various looks.
I'm just enjoying this.
I know there's going to be at least one red herring in his facial expressions.
well, I suppose if we can't reason it out, we'll just have to go knock on his door and ask him.
I suppose so.
Might be where we have to go.
If Marta can avoid stomping long enough for us to get there.
Yeah.
Please don't put a hole in the boat, Marta.
Yeah, please don't.
I'll fix the poker face issues.
There you go. Very nice.
That works.
Oh, it doesn't have hands. I was hoping it had hands.
That's disappointing.
Have they gotten a lizard one yet? Because that would be great.
No, that's what I was checking on. Lizard or snake would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Hear that, Zoom? Get in on those D&D features.
Yo.
Get some of that Hasbro money.
Yes.
So you all walk back out into the, you're sort of walking through this sort of misty, endless pseudo night here. There are a staggering array of fey creatures all around you. Auric, this is maybe, and you've been here a few times. There's maybe just a smidge of that, like, small town kid in the big city feel. But also, you've been living in Queensboro with things that are to you much more alien than this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this might not feel as strange by contrast. For Lexi and Cyrus, this is the weirdest thing y'all have ever seen.
Yeah.
There are centaurs and bird people and tree people and little, not just little, there are goblins of all sizes. ranging from like ones that could stand in your palm to ones that are like riding on people's shoulders like parrots to ones that are like the size of a cart. So then sort of slink through walking on their knuckles. You see people with heads that are on fire, people whose bodies are made of water that glimmer with the same sort of rainbow mist. It's truly wild. Marta is okay. Okay. Boat. And starts to sort of lead you all towards the river proper. It's a little bit to the north of where you all went to the Queen, the establishment where you met with her contact. And you can see here, this almost looks like a port town, with a distinctly kind of medieval vibe to it. All kinds of boats, and the variety of boats. You see like beautiful, elegant, sort of long, slender ships that are very like elves and Lord of the Rings vibes. You see even like squat, sort of like rusted iron looking ships, crewed by like hobgoblins and bugbears and all manner of little goblin folk. You even see one vessel that like hovers above the water with huge sails that are almost like tendrils of crystal. And every so often, the breeze doesn't move them, but it's almost like something else blows through the air, and the space between the tendrils fills in and creates like a glowing orange sail for a second that like flickers in and out of existence. Strange creatures are unloading cargo from this floating ship. You see what looks fully like an anthropomorphic, multiple anthropomorphic hippopotamus people unloading this giant, glimmering vessel. Marta sort of leads you all past these larger vessels and down toward a sort of smaller set of docks. These almost look more like gondolas or sort of nice rowboats, basically. There seem to be sort of captains standing next to some of them, ready to go. Some seem contracted through services. As she gets close, a thin, shorter dragonborn that seems to be made of green crystal runs up and gives her a very subservient bow, and she just, which boat? And he and points her over towards a very nice looking boat. It looks like it has seating for maybe like 12. There's several rowers. There's a small, elegant looking sail on it. The captain looks a little bit less rough and tumble than some of the others. They are almost like a slender minotaur, wearing like a very respectable sort of like doublet. They've got like a nice jacket coming down over it, very polished boots, a tri-corner hat that has like slight cutouts on the side so that it rests on the horns. They also sort of bow very formally as you all approach. Ah, yes. The young lady and her entourage that we have been anticipating. I understand you're seeking passage up the river. Ha, yes, very good. Well, if you are ready to be quit of the fair city of Midweir, then we shall depart.
Sounded like
So-
Sam the Eagle was giving us instructions there.
Did you not hear? This is in fact the Muppet Captain.
Okay.
Well, anybody want any last minute souvenirs?
Think I'm good. We have to come back this way anyway.
True.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't sure whether we were going to end up with like a 5-mast galley or like a swan-shaped paddle boat.
Seeing a rowboat canoe.
I can see what we have that might be swan shaped if you would prefer.
No, this one's nice. This one's good.
Well, very well. Then may I welcome you aboard the Silver Horn.
Silver Horn.
You can see it sort of very delicately like it's actually it's been like delicately worked in silver and then like set onto the wood. It's not just like painted. You all ready to step aboard?
I think we are.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. There is not the slightest sort of bob as you all step onto this ship. There seems to be some kind of stabilizing enchantment, which is interesting because the ship itself seems to kind of roll a little bit. It's almost like your perception is distorted to your benefit. You just sort of are able to walk across the moving ship as if it is perfectly flat. There's sort of crew seating for rowers, but there's also like it almost looks like someone has turned the like patio of a very elegant restaurant into a boat. Like very nice tables where one could sort of sit and just sort of like look out over the river as it goes by. It looks like there's a small like area that maybe even goes like to something below deck. You get the impression the dimensions of this boat are maybe not traditional. And you can see that there are little goblins about this big, but they don't like there's no like cackling, there's no like scampering about. They're standing like rigidly at attention and have their own little doublets, and as you walk by they go and when the captain comes around they and he says well, and when he does that they all echo. And he starts to lay out some orders, and as he does little groups of them go and sort of run off and set about their task with great efficiency. Ropes are untied, a sort of gangplank is sort of pulled in and safely stowed away. It looks wild. There are long oars coming off the sides, and like 8 of the goblins are working an oar together, and it's almost like they make like a human tower, and one of them like climbs up to the top, grabs the anchor or grabs the oar and like jumps forward with it, falls down, and then the next one grabs it and jumps off, and they keep cycling that way, and the oars start moving in sequence to a tiny chorus of do you all want to sort of take a seat? How do you want to arrange yourselves here?
I guess we'll take a seat. That's probably what Lexi would do.
I am staying out of the way of the oars.
Well, yes, that.
Yeah, that's all happening sort of like towards the front, and in the back the boat sort of sweeps upwards a little bit, so you're looking out over. There is a faint sail. This one has a sort of glimmering moon and starlight quality to it. And again, it doesn't seem connected to a tangible wind that is blowing. But there's almost like and some energy passes into the sail, and it alights and expands, and along with the of the goblins, you all start to make your way down the river. Lexi, as soon as you sit, several of the goblins run over holding like a drink menu. It's not that fancy, but it's, respectable. It's a boat after all.
Yeah. Pretty fancy. Wasn't expecting all this. What are my options on the drink menu?
Most anything you could think of, very like nice versions.
Okay.
There is a definite tilt towards sort of otherworldly wines.
Okay.
You see a lot of descriptors that include words like starlight and moonlit and sort of overly, how do I put it? Pretty much leaning into the aesthetic of the whole thing. You get the impression that this is very much meant for like the pleasure sailing of wealthy fairy nobles.
Yes.
There are some spirits along the list. You do see some that have descriptors that include like unusual magical effects that you would not, and it's very like here's the name, and just like a sort of normal restaurant menu, sort of in italics underneath, there's a description. And you see ones that like alter moods. You see some that literally make you like warm or cold. There are some that cause like localized weather around the boat if several people drink them.
Sounds a little dangerous.
Nothing too bad, but like you could have like a little like aura of like sunlight if you wanted to, or if you wanted like, beautiful somber rain or something.
Yeah.
Lexi gets her own private rain cloud right over her head.
Yes. Lexi's probably thinking of getting like a mocktail of some sort, something that's not alcoholic or low in alcohol, at least. Keep her wits about her at this point.
Marta doesn't even look at a menu. She just like grabs one of the goblins by the front of its tiny doublet and is like, she orders something called a Devastator.
Nice.
And the tiny goblin like tries to like chitter something in Sylvan that's basically like, we don't serve that. And she's like, you do if you know what's good for you. And the goblin and salutes and then runs off. All right. So the ship sort of moves effortlessly, serenely out onto the glimmering waters. All of the colors are washing over you, and the mid-weir slowly shrinks behind you as you make your way upriver. There are other boats sort of gently sailing by, but as you get further out, somehow the boats like thin out around you. Sometimes you see a boat just seem to vanish into mist as it takes some other fey tributary and vanishes. And so we leave you all with the distant lights of the North Weir coming into view in the far distance, the Mid Weir shrinking behind you, and the captain watching over you all. And that's where we will pick up next week.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to kill our recording.